I want you to think about the last time you sat in a salon chair. Hours of work, careful hands, beautiful results, of course, box braids, a weave, a wig, extensions that took your look from ordinary to extraordinary in a single afternoon. And so you walked out feeling confident, feeling polished, and yourself feeling good but better. Now, I need to tell you something that just came out of a laboratory, something published in February this year that almost nobody is talking about yet. Now, scientists tested 43 different hair extension products, and these are synthetic human hair and bio-based, and all but 2 of them contain hazardous chemicals. 41 out of 43. Now, these chemicals are linked to cancer, they are linked to hormone disruption, they are linked to developmental problems, they are linked to effects on your immune system. And here is the detail that taught me cold when I first read this study. More than 70% of black women report wearing hair extensions at least once in the past year, compared with less than 10% of women from other racial and ethnic groups. Now, this is not a niche beauty concern. This is something happening on the heads of the vast majority of African and black women every single week all over the world. Now, today, I'm walking you through the ingredient list nobody shows you. Ingredients found in this hair. Now, a quick interruption before we go further. I looked at my analytics this week, and 98% of you watching this are not yet subscribed. Yes, you who is watching this, you're not yet subscribed. If something I share here ever make you think differently about your health, do me one favor. Hit the subscribe button and tap the bell and drop a comment with a topic you want me to cover next. I read every single one of them. If you're done with that, that's excellent. I'm Dr. Libeya Bethwel. I'm your pharmacist, and this conversation is one that has been needed for a very long time. And so let's begin looking at it step by step. Now, I'll begin by looking at the study that changed everything about what I'm going to share. And I want to walk you through exactly what researchers found, because the scale of this is genuinely significant. In the most comprehensive analysis to date, Silent Spring Institute identified dozens of hazardous chemicals in their extensions, including products made from human hair, providing the strongest evidence yet of the potential health risks that are associated with this largely unregulated category of beauty products. Now, the study, it's published in the American Chemical Society journal, if you want to look at it later, on environment and health. It found that synthetic and human hair extensions, they contain more chemicals with possible negative effects for wearers than previously documented. Now, a total of 48 identified chemicals appear on major hazard lists, including 12 listed under California's Proposition 65 for causing cancer, birth defects, or even reproductive harm. Now, here is something that genuinely shocked the researchers themselves. The discovery of organotin chemicals stood out most. Nearly 10% of the samples contained organotins. Let that land for a moment. A chemical used to coat the bottom of ships to stop sea creatures from attaching to the hull was found in nearly 1 in 10 hair extension samples that were tested. It is used in polyvinyl chloride as a stabilizer. We do know that organotins are linked to cancer and hormone disruption as well, and they are really bad for the environment. Now, some samples had organotin concentrations above European Union limits. Now, this is not a fringe finding from an obscure source. This is polished, this is peer-reviewed science from one of the most respected environmental health research institutions in the United States. Now, how do these chemicals actually get into your body from the artificial hair? Now, as your pharmacist, I want to explain the biological pathway, because understanding how this happens is what makes this information genuinely useful to you. Now, both synthetic and human hair have the potential for toxicity once chemicals are absorbed through the scalp, skin, or the air. Now, your scalp is not an inert barrier. It is living tissue, richly supplied with blood vessels, and it is remarkably absorbent, which is precisely why medicated scalp treatments and topical medications work in the first place. Now, anything sitting directly against your scalp for hours, days, or weeks at a time has the opportunity to be absorbed into your bloodstream. And braided or woven extensions are not a brief exposure. They sit against your scalp continuously, often for 6 to 8 weeks at a time before being redone. Now, there is also a heat component. Researchers have found that chemical gases, some known to be toxic, were released from synthetic hair when burned, singed, or heated, even when the product was labeled flame retardant. Now, every time you seal braids with a flame or use heated styling tools near synthetic hair, you may be releasing additional chemical compounds into the air you are directly breathing in, right next to your scalp and face. Now, this is a dual exposure pathway through your skin and through your airways. Now, there's a specific chemicals and the specific thing they do to your hormones, and I would like to look at that. And I want to break down specifically what these chemicals do, because the names alone mean nothing without understanding the mechanism through which they affect that which they do to your body. First, we have what we call phthalates. Now, phthalates are what I call plasticizers that disrupt hormones and reproductive health. Now, phthalates have been linked to hormone deficiencies and endocrine disruption at certain exposure levels, according to the US Environmental Protection Agency. Now, phthalates are added to plastics and synthetic fibers to make them softer and more flexible, which is exactly why they are used extensively in synthetic hair, which needs to feel soft and move naturally. But chemically, phthalates closely resemble the structure of estrogen. Once absorbed into your body, they can bind to estrogen receptors and interfere with your natural hormonal signaling, essentially confusing your endocrine system about how much estrogen is actually present. Now, 17 of the chemicals identified were linked to breast cancer, including dibutyl phthalate and what we call DHP, both used to increase flexibility in plastics. We have organotins. Now, organotins, they are plastic stabilizers that cause skin reactions and hormone disruption. Now, organotins, they are classified as obesogens, and this meaning research has shown they can disrupt the body's normal metabolic and fat storage signaling, contributing to weight gain independent of diet and exercise. Now, they have also been linked to immune system suppression and are recognized carcinogens. We also have formaldehyde, and the National Toxicology Program classifies formaldehyde as known to cause cancer, especially in humans, and long-term exposure is linked to leukemia, which is a type of cancer, and of course other types of cancers. Now, these risks, the Food and Drug Administration has understood since at least 2008. Now, in 2023, the FDA proposed a ban on using formaldehyde in chemical relaxers. Since then, the agency has missed 4 separate deadlines to act. Now, this is a chemical that regulators have known is dangerous for nearly 2 decades, and the regulatory process to actually ban it has stalled, and it has done so repeatedly while women continue to use it. Now, we also have what we call acrylonitrile. Acrylonitrile, used in fibers like canecolin, is harmful to skin and nervous system. Now, canecolin is one of the most widely used synthetic hair fibers in the world, and it's found in braiding hair that is sold in markets and salons across Africa, across Europe, and across North America. We also have another chemical called benzene. Now, benzene, it falls under a category of chemicals, we call them toxic chemicals. Now, benzene, formaldehyde, and phthalates, they were found in samples that were tested. Now, these hazardous compounds are linked to serious health risks, including cancer and also hormonal disruption. Now, benzene specifically is non-human carcinogen, strongly associated with leukemia and other cancers, and it has no safe level of exposure that is recognized by toxicologists. Now, that is benzene. I want us now to look at what this means for your hormones specifically. When your body system is exposed to these chemicals, what does it mean to your hormones specifically? And I'll bring this back to something a dermatologist directly involved in this research said, because it deserves to be heard clearly. This is what the dermatologist said. Hair products, they have been shown to have hormonal activity. They can affect estrogen levels, they can affect androgens, and they can also affect glucocorticoids. And this was said by Dr. Sandy Tsao, who is a dermatologist at Massachusetts General Hospital. Now, estrogen, androgens, which are the hormones that are responsible for things like body hair growth and certain aspects of reproductive health. Now, glucocorticoids, on the other hand, they are hormones like cortisol that regulate your stress response. They regulate your metabolism, and also they regulate your immune function. This single sentence describes disruption across three major hormonal systems simultaneously. Not one narrow effect, but a broad spectrum hormonal interference. An associate research scientist at Columbia University's Mailman School of Public Health called this finding definitely concerning, especially as it relates to endocrine disruptors, which studies have shown are linked to obesity and birth defects. And here is the honest scientific caveat that I want to give you, because I always want to be precise with you. And no studies have conclusively shown that wearing extensions causes systemic disease, but risk increases with repeated exposure, especially for people who layer relaxes, dyes, braids, and extension together. Now, the study did not determine whether any particular amount of chemical exposure from hair extensions was above legal safety standards or would necessarily cause health issues in people. Now, this limitation makes it difficult to create specific safety guidance. Now, this is important nuance, and we are not yet able to say definitively this exact braid style will cause this exact disease. That of certainty we cannot say. Science does not work that fast, and I will never overstate a finding to you. But what we can say is this with confidence is that the cumulative, repeated, lifelong exposure pathway, scalp contact, heat exposure layered with relaxers and dyes, is a genuine and measurable hormonal and carcinogenic risk factor that deserves your attention. Now, why this disproportionately affects African and Black women, it's a question perhaps you could be asking yourself. And I want to address that directly, because this is not incidental. It is structural. Now, for Black women and girls, hair extensions are cultural, they are convenient, and they're essential for maintaining hair health while navigating discrimination that is rooted in white-centered beauty standards that equate sleek hair with cleanliness and professionalism. Now, this is not vanity. This is a deeply embedded cultural and professional reality across Africa, across the diaspora, in workplaces, in churches, in schools, where hair texture and style carry real social and economic consequences. And the regulatory protection has simply not kept pace with that demand. Now, several bills have been introduced at the federal and state levels to regulate beauty products, but most haven't passed or taken effect. Hair extensions remain federally unregulated, leaving Black women to navigate a market filled with untested products. Now, Washington State has gone farthest, banning what we call PFAS, that is phthalates and formaldehyde, by 2025 to 2026. Now, that is one state in one country. The vast majority of the global market, including products sold across Kenya, across Nigeria, South Africa, and the wider African continent, remains essentially untested and unregulated. Now, a 2024 study in Nigeria found heavy metals and pesticides in 10 synthetic hair products tested. Now, this is not a distant foreign problem. This is happening in the products on our own shelves, in our own markets right now. And so, what can you actually do after having this information? Now, as your pharmacist, I'm not here to tell you to stop wearing extensions. That is not what I'm here to tell you about. I'm not here to tell you to stop wearing braids or wigs. That decision is deeply personal, cultural, and yours to make. What I'm here to give you is practical. It is evidence-based guidance to reduce your risk. And number one thing to do is to choose products labeled non-toxic or toxic-free where available. Now, the only 2 samples in the entire study without detected hazards were labeled as non-toxic or toxic-free. That is the first step. Now, this labeling is not perfect, but it is currently the strongest market signal available to customers. Number 2, avoid burning or singing synthetic hair to seal it whenever possible. Now, heat appears to release additional chemical compounds directly into the air around your scalp and face. Where alternative sealing methods exist, please, there are safer choices that you can opt for. Number 3, reduce the layering of chemical exposures. Reduce the layering of chemical exposures. Risk increases, especially for people who layer relaxers, who layer dyes, braids, and extensions. So if you are using chemical relaxers and dyeing your hair and wearing extensions continuously, consider spacing these treatments out or reducing the number of simultaneous chemical exposures your scalp experiences. That is number 3. Number 4, give your scalp recovery time between installation. Give it recovery time between installation. Continuous back-to-back installation cycles with minimal scalp rest tends to increase cumulative exposure time. Where possible, allow periods of natural hair with no extensions where possible. That is number 4. Number 5, advocate for regulation. Wherever you are, advocate for regulation. Now, New York's State Assembly Bill 2005 A7001 will require that hair extensions, the wigs, and braiding hair containing toxic chemicals be labeled with a warning. Now, supporting similar labeling requirements wherever you live, including here in Kenya and across Africa, genuinely changes what manufacturers are required to disclose, and it goes a long way. Number 6, wash your scalp regularly during extended wear, when you're wearing the braids, the wigs, and whatnot. Now, reducing build-up and residue contact time where your installation style allows for it, it supports basic scalp health alongside reducing prolonged chemical contact, which is very, very important. As I come to a close of this particular video, I would like to leave you with this, and I would like to bring this together even as we come to a conclusion. All but 2 of 43 hair extension products tested contained hazardous chemicals linked to cancer, linked to hormone disruption, linked to developmental problems and immune effects, as we had looked when we began this particular video. This is not about fear. This is about informed choice, the same informed choice you deserve with any product that sits against your body for weeks at a time. You are not wrong for loving your hair. You're not wrong for loving your styles, your culture, your beauty rituals. None of that is in question. What was missing until today was the information about the products that you use. Now you have it. What you do with it is entirely your choice. Share this video with every woman in your life who braids, who weaves, or wears extensions regularly. This is breaking science. Most people have not heard this yet. Drop a comment below. Did this surprise you? And tell me what topic you want me to cover next. See you in the next video.